What's up, everybody? Welcome back. It's been a while since the last marathon, but we're gonna be getting back into it. In case you guys don't remember or just don't read the community tab for some reason, I put up a poll asking you guys which series of games I should do a marathon of next, and most of you guys picked Devil May Cry, which kind of surprised me a little because I didn't know there'd be some Devil May Cry fans in the audience, but that doesn't really bother me because I can already say that I have some experience with the franchise, but I'll save my history with each individual game for those for their respective reviews. So Devil May Cry was a series created by Capcom back in 2001, and it's kind of weird to think that this is the first Capcom series I'm covering on this channel and not Mega Man or Street Fighter. But at first, Devil May Cry wasn't even going to be a thing because originally, Devil May Cry 1 started off as an early build of Resident Evil 4 in 1999 for the PS2 that was directed by Hideki Kamiya, who would later make the Bayonetta games. This original build of Resident Evil had the themes of coolness and stylishness as a core part of the game, but it was then scrapped because Shinji Mikami thought it strayed too far away from the franchise's original roots, which in itself is pretty ironic. I haven't played the Resident Evil games, but I know that from Resident Evil 4 and onwards, the series just kind of strayed away from its original gameplay mechanics, but that's a conversation for another time. Kamiya rewrote the story from taking place in Europe and Spain to taking place in a world of demons in a gothic castle, inspired by the Italian poem Divine Comedy by Dante. Dante A, which would be the name of the main character of the series. So Capcom decided to make an entirely different game. A group of sub-developers in Capcom named Team Little Devils came together to make the game, which will be announced as Devil May Cry in November 2000. Now all that was established, Devil May Cry was released on August 23rd, 2001 in Japan, October 17th in North America, and December 7th in Europe and Australia. This game would have received critical acclaim and would span 5 other games in the series and a dedicated fan base too. There aren't a lot of games in the series, but it's known for having some of the best action games of all time and pioneering the action, hack and slash genre. I've actually known about the Devil May Cry series for a couple of years, and I actually had it on my backlog for a while, but I wouldn't really properly get into the series until late 2023 when I decided to buy the HD collection for PS3 at a retro game store that's unfortunately closed down. Let me just say this right now, the only game that I haven't played in the series is Devil May Cry 5. I played and beaten DMC 1 and 2 in the reboot, and I got halfway through DMC 3 and 4, but I'll explain my reasoning why in their respective videos. From everything I played, I've had a lot of fun with the series, even though they can be pretty challenging at times. Yes, even the reboot too, which may be kind of surprising to some of you, but we'll get there when we get there. I really love the action the series provides, and the characters are really likable too, my favorites being Dante, Nero, and Virgil. And these games will have some of the best animated cutscenes in a video game ever too. As a matter of fact, this one scene from my intro for Ish Plays actually comes through the opening cutscene of Devil May Cry 4. So yeah, I consider myself to be a fan of the series, not a hardcore one where I know every piece of lore and world building about it, but every game that I play has managed to keep me entertained. Well, except for DMC 2, but that's for next time. For this marathon, I'm going to be looking at the HD collection for Devil May Cry 1, 2, and 3 because I really feel like it's the best way to play these games. Especially Devil May Cry 1 because for some weird ass reason, the PS2 original jump button is maxed to triangle and it's only in the North American version of the game. No other region has that. Sometimes you just learn not to question the decision of video game companies, but let's not waste any more time and dive into Devil May Cry HD collection.
Let's rock, baby.
The game opens up with some lore dumps in this text wall, which I'm pretty sure most people cannot read. I can just barely make it out myself, so I'll just tell you. 2,000 years ago, there is a war against the human world and the underworld. The legendary King Sparda went on fought the entire human world himself, and he temporarily ruled the human world until his death. Before that, Sparda married a human woman and had 2 children with her, Dante and Virgil. Cut to the present day, Dante now runs a demon hunting business called Devil May Cry, where he tries to hunt down the demon who killed his mom and brother. One day, a woman named Trish falls from the sky and tells Dante that Mundus, the Demon King, is rising again on Melee Island. And Dante only agrees to go along with her because not only is Mundus a prime suspect of the murders of Dante's family, but Trish also shares a striking resemblance to Dante's mother. So then Dante and Trish go to Melee Island to try to defeat Mundus once and for all. That's pretty much the main basis of the overall plot because things don't really pick up again until the final act where Trish betrays Dante while fighting the Nightmare Monster, but then Dante saves Trish and tells her to fuck off. You spend the majority of the game in the castle solving a lot of these puzzles and fighting these demons, but they don't really contribute that much to the story though. But hey, even though the story doesn't really have that much happening in between, they really make up for it in the action scenes. The cutscene animation and choreography for a game that came out in 2001 is actually really good, and also shows how cool but batshit insane this world is. I mean, the first scene in the entire series has a woman fall from the sky, bust into Dante's place with a motorcycle. She then grabs his sword and stabs him with it and electrocutes him. And when she realizes that's not enough, she throws her entire motorcycle at him, then Dante just shoots it away. And then after all that, she was like, oh wait, we're actually teammates even though I just tried to kill you. Then barely 2 levels into the game, a sword randomly just gets up by itself and stabs Dante through the chest. But because of his demon side, he just ascends and just grabs his sword and just starts handling it like nothing ever happened. Then later in the game, when we beat the Griffith boss fight, it tries to get back up only to get slammed by a piece of a structure. It's also over the top, but that craziness aspect is what makes watching these cutscenes so entertaining, and I think it's why so many people love the series too. But after all that, Dante confronts Mundus, and Trish sacrifices herself for him. And Dante has a final battle with Mundus in this stupid ass fight that changed up the gameplay mechanics for no reason. After defeating him, Dante mourns Trish's supposed death and tries to escape the castle, but Mundus makes the floor that Dante was standing on fall apart. Dante tries to fight Mundus again, but he isn't able to land a final blow on him, but Trish, who I guess was just revived by Dante's tears, gives Dante a superpowered gun to finish off Mundus.
It looks like we have a winner.
Jackpot.
Dante and Trish use an old biplane to get off the island, and they team up and rename their business from Devil May Cry to Devil Never Cry, and spoiler alert, the name change won't be permanent. I guess even they knew that, it just doesn't roll off the tongue as much. So the story is pretty entertaining, but not just because of the action scenes, but also because of the characters too. Dante is a pretty cool character. He's a typical confident, snarky asshole that still has a good heart at the end of the day. He has a cool design, and the game does a pretty good job on showcasing his fighting skills, his banter with the monsters and Trish, and also his soft side too. Early in the game, Dante fights this demon named Nelo Angelo, who has the exact same fighting style as Dante. But later in the game, we found out that Nelo Angelo is actually Dante's twin brother, Virgil, and he's able to confirm it when he drops the same amulet that their mother gave to them both when they were babies, and he starts to mourn him. Well, at least I think he is. Yeah, the models for a PS2 game look pretty good until you look at them up close, and they're not too bad, but Trish especially has that blow-up doll look, even when she's supposed to look emotional. But that's not the only problem I have. The dialogue in this game feels like it could have gone through a rewrite, like this line in Lordom at the beginning of the game.
But somebody from the underworld woke up to justice and stood up against this legion alone.
And some other lines felt like they were trying to be symbolic, but it just kind of comes off as corny instead.
Sky, so clear, so blue.
The sky is fair. It'll always be above everyone's head, no different.
Dante,
Trish, devils never cry. These tears are a gift only humans have.
You would think that it's because of the translation issues, but no. This game was only voice acted in English, and the Japanese version has the English voices with Japanese subtitles. The voice acting is also pretty hokey too. I mean, it makes sense because this game did come out during a time where Capcom is still kind of getting used to having full cutscenes with full voice acting.
Where's Chris?
Stop it! Don't open that door!
But Chris is...
What is it? Maybe it's Chris.
But I just can't help but giggle at some of these lines though.
What a big surprise. I hope for your sake you got something inside that big body of yours.
you beat him. Maybe it was too easy for you.
Mundus. His heinous ways make me sick, killing even his own, like they were nothing.
Whoa, slow down, babe. Well, well, what do we have here? Nature calls? It's in the back.
How much longer are you going to keep zapping? Come out and show yourself, Mundus!
Dante!
Don't come any closer, you devil! You may look like my mother, but you're nowhere close to her. You have no soul. You have the face, but you'll never have her fire! My mother risked her life for me, and now you too.
should have saved you.
I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light!
I burst out laughing when I first saw that cutscene. Also, I never played the original PS2 version of this game, but playing this game on the HD collection, sometimes the music and sound effects are a little bit too loud. Like, not to the point where I can't hear the voices, but loud enough for me to hear.
Are you really the son of the legendary Dark Knight Sparda? Didn't your daddy teach you how to use a sword?
Now that the story's out the way, let's talk about the gameplay now. This is a hack and slash like I said before. You play as Dante and only Dante, and the name of the game is to explore a castle, kill demons, and die. Since the game was originally a Resident Evil game in development and turned into another game entirely, this game will have you do some puzzles, and if you don't learn to read almost everything that you can press square on, like I did on my first playthrough, you're probably going to be running around like an idiot. You're encouraged to read all these statues for some context clues, so as long as you do that, you'll be fine. The real meat of the game is the combat, and since this game came out in 2001, a time where the hack and slash genre wasn't really a thing yet, I think that the combat is decent, but I wouldn't really recommend this as someone's first DMC game though. Dante has a decent amount of weapons for him to work with. First there's Alistair, which lets him slice up any enemy he wants. Then there's Ifrit Gauntlets, which end up being the weapon I use the most. It's not that good for closing gaps, but it's pretty good for close range combat. The charge attacks do a lot of damage, and I love that diving kick that Dante does. It's so cool using that to finish combos. Then there's a sword named after Dante's father, Sparda. You get this near the end of the game, and I didn't really use that much since it's basically just Alistair, but it doesn't have the double trigger, so I switched right back to Alistair. The cool part about these weapons is that you can upgrade them as you play through the game. As you progress, you can find these red orbs by either looking around certain areas or they drop from the enemies you kill. You can use these red orbs to go and buy upgrades for your weapons like the Stinger move for Alistair or the Uppercut for Ifrit. You can also buy orbs to extend your health or upgrade your double trigger. When you're consistently doing a lot of damage, you can see this ranking meter that goes from D to S. As long as you get the combos going, it shouldn't be too hard to get a lot of S ranks. You're also ranked at the end of every stage too, but if it's your first time playing, this won't be any higher than a C. I got some A ranks and 1 S rank on my first playthrough. You're also able to use guns, which don't really do a lot to get you an S rank unless you just switch back and forth from your weapons to your guns. But if you want to take care of enemies from a safe distance and fire away, you have unlimited ammo, so you're not punished for relying on your guns. The guns that you can use are your default ebony and ivory. They're basic handguns and you can use them to stagger your enemies, and if you're good enough, you can keep them in the air for a long time. Then you got the shotgun that has a short range but does a lot of damage. It blows smaller enemies away. I also really love the crunchy sound when you shoot it. Then there's my personal favorite, the grenade gun, which does so much damage. I'm pretty sure it takes out some enemies in one shot. Some people probably won't use it because there's a cooldown period between each shot. But you can do a dodge roll right after you shoot the grenade and shoot immediately after. Thank you Jay's Review for that lure strat. It also helps build your double trigger gauge too because of its damage output. Whenever you're exploring around the area, you can find blue orbs for your health and these stars that for temporary invincibility, yellow orbs that can give you extra lives after you die, holy water which can one-shot enemies and decimate boss fights health bars. Underneath your health bar, you can see these runes. This is your double trigger meter. You fill the meter by fighting enemies, and once you activate it, Dante goes into his double trigger state where he's faster, stronger, your guns cause more damage, and your health degenerates. If you have a purple star, you can just refill your double trigger and just go ballistic. It hurts your rank, but if you don't care about that, then go ahead. I like using double trigger for the stronger attack output, but I would be lying if I said I didn't use it as a crutch. The health regen alone makes me spam it a lot, but since it's pretty easy to fill up, especially with the grenade launcher, and the power boost it gives your guns and weapons, and the speed boost that it gives you, it just became an essential part of my moveset. It also helps because of how hard some of these guys hit. Even though this game can be pretty short, it can feel like it's going on forever at some points. The game is split up into 23 missions. Some of them are pretty short, but you'll be going back and forth through the corridors, so some parts of the game can feel like it's padding. On my first playthrough, I beat this game in 7 hours. The playthrough I did for this video clocked in just about 4 hours, mainly because I had a better idea of what I was doing. Even on normal difficulty, this game can be pretty tough, and if it's your first time, good luck. You're gonna get rocked by some of these enemies in boss fights. This is my second full playthrough of this game and I was still getting my ass kicked. Even though you can get yellow orbs to revive yourself, the amount you can get is very limited, so if you run out of orbs, it's game over, and the only way to try again is to load your save file and start the mission from the beginning. Some of the reason for this game's difficulty is because of the fixed camera angle. It's not terrible, but it can feel cramped during boss fights. When you're running around a long dynamic shot, the camera automatically switches angles, and your controller momentarily flips, so you have to change what angle you have the analog stick in, and it's so awkward when it happens. It's even worse when the camera just doesn't give you a decent angle in the middle of combat. These scissor enemies and the second Griffin boss fight are the worst offenders of this type of bullshit. The scissor enemies are just high enough so you don't have a decent angle to see them. You'll either won't have enough time to dodge, or you just dodge into their attacks. I hate the second fight with the Griffin bird. It spends most of the fight in the air while this red bird keeps on throwing you up in the air. It doesn't help you get close to the bird, and since you can't see where it is, you'll be playing a waiting game for it to come down. Sometimes there's these cutscenes where they introduce the enemies, and they can just deck you immediately right after cutscene ends. Like, that's not fucking fair, I wasn't prepared! Then there's parts where you're required to platform, and it's just not a fun time at all. I think Dante's basic controls are manageable, but his jump is next to worthless. If you're near a wall, you can jump off it for some more height, but his jump is only good for vertical movement. For horizontal movement, it sucks because when at a standstill, you're locked until you land. It's so bad that when Dante reaches a longer than normal gap, the game just automatically makes a jump for him, which is good, but why not just put that effort into tweaking the jumps and be better at platforming? What's even more confusing is that there's an upgrade for Alistair that gives you the double jump, but for some reason Alistair is the only weapon that has that, so you have to switch to the right weapon every time you want to do a double jump. Hey guys, post-editing issues, so I remember that you can actually switch between Alistair and Ifrit with the right analog stick, so yeah, I just thought I should bring that up for any confusion for anyone watching this video, but just to be clear, that doesn't really fix any of my problems I have with the jump and everything, so anyway. So I asked, if they can just do that with a weapon, why not just program that into Dante's natural moveset? But even then, the double jump doesn't really fix things, it just kind of doubles down on the problem. Just look at me just flailing around trying to get to the higher level. Another problem with Dante's natural moveset is that he doesn't have a dodge roll. Kinda. He can roll when using his guns, but when he just has the swords and gauntlets out, you can't dodge anything, which kinda sucks because in a fast-paced action hack and slash, the best things to have is either a dodge roll or a counter move to keep the flow going, but also rewarding you for your skills and getting better at the game. I feel like that little risk and reward system would have made the combat just a little bit more satisfying. Thankfully, that problem is addressed and fixed in later games, but it's kinda hard not to point out this fact and see how simple this game's combat can feel in comparison, but thankfully this isn't the worst the series get with simplistic combat, but that's for the next video. Then there are the levels in the water, and they suck dick. I mean, it's kind of a given that water levels would be one of the worst parts of a game, but here, the controls are clunky, it's in an awkward first person view, and until you get the harpoon gun, you can't really defend yourself, and when you shoot the harpoon gun, you're locked in place and you can't move unless you stop shooting. There was no reason for this to be in the game, it just slows down the pacing of an action game. It's a good thing that there's only 2 of them, because more than that would probably be miserable. There's also these secret missions that you can do by going back to certain parts of the castle for more blue orbs. I did one on my first playthrough, and I didn't even do one on this playthrough. Matter of fact, I completely forgot about the secret missions until writing this part of the video. I remember playing the other secret missions, I found they were pretty annoying to deal with, but since you get blue orbs that have more health to deal with enemies, it wouldn't hurt to do some of them, but you might need a guide for your first time because some of these stages can be cryptic as all hell, and I'm not sure how people were able to find them all without using PlayStation Magazine or just running around the castle looking like an idiot back when this game first came out. I think the last thing to talk about are the boss fights, and they're pretty hit or miss. Actually, the only boss I actually like was Nelo, Angelo. I like how you have to figure out his fighting style and anticipate when he's gonna swing his sword, or you can just be a pussy and just spam double trigger and use the grenade launcher to deal a lot of damage to his health, like I did. The other bosses range from mid to just fucking frustrating. The final boss with Mundus is pretty underwhelming. I hate when final bosses in video games just change up the mechanics for no reason, which is why I give the final bosses in Sly 1 and 2 so much shit. You have to fly around and shoot at him to fill up your double trigger meter, and unleash it to take out a quarter of Mundus' health. Your controls are inverted and Mundus does a lot of damage even on normal difficulty. That should be enough to tell you why this first phase sucks. The second phase is much better, as long as you just don't go into lava and just use double trigger, you should be fine. The final phase is just straight brain dead. I'm just shooting at him and just dodging him. I don't even think I need to activate my double trigger here. I already talked about the Griffin boss fight, but nothing gets worse than fighting the Nightmare Monster for the 3rd time. So this game repeats every boss fight 3 times, but the Nightmare Monster might be the only boss here where I just don't get repeating it 3 times. You're supposed to light the room so it reveals his weak point, but when you're trying to activate the rooms to light the room, Dante's still locked onto the Nightmare Monster, so if you're just barely off from hitting the rooms, Dante will just turn in straight at 180 degrees and just swing at nothing. And you can't switch off your target, so you need to get very close to the rooms to beat the boss. I didn't really have an issue with lock-on this game, but here is where it pissed me off the most. But that's not even the worst part about this boss either. Because of the fixed camera angles, it can be hard to see where the blob throws out attacks, which can cause you to get hit by cheap shots. And if you get too close, the monster will capture you and make you fight one of the fights that you already fought 3 times before, and you still have to beat the Nightmare Monster afterwards. I have no shame in saying that I used a holy water item to make this easier for myself. Look, I already dealt with this thing's bullshit before, I have nothing to prove here. This fight is the only reason why I beat this game in 4 sessions and not 3. And because of how the story plays out, Trish revives the nightmare monster you have to fight it again when it's on a quarter of health left. Dante should have left her to die to Mundus. But the only other boss fight to talk about is the spider, and it's pretty easy when we figure out the patterns. At least the music that's playing during these bosses are pretty good though. It wouldn't be a Devil May Cry video if I didn't bring that up. The action music while fighting bosses or in a cutscene are full of energy and gets you pumped up. This game also encourages replayability, since when you beat the game, it restarts on hard mode. This is why you can level up your weapons, health, and double trigger too, but in exchange, hard enemies appear at the beginning. It's a typical New Game Plus shit in any game. I didn't do that for this playthrough, but whenever I'm in the mood to blow through the series again, I might just try it out to experience the upgrades for Alistair and the Ifrit Gauntlets, but I don't see myself doing this on Dante Must Die, the hardest difficulty. But overall, that's it for Devil May Cry 1. It's a pretty good game on its own, but when compared to every other game in the series, it's kinda obvious how dated it is in comparison. Every game in the series improves the foundation of this game's setup, and this game still deserves its label as a classic, but it still kinda suffers from first game syndrome like a lot of first games in the series at this point in time. Well, maybe it doesn't really get that much better afterwards, because the next game we're gonna be looking at is one of the most infamous game sequels of all time, Devil May Cry 2, and you know, a lot can be said about that game, but you know, we'll say that for later. But yeah, hope you guys look forward to the DMZ2 review. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.